In the great shining palace of Cytheria, the alien Queen Cerilyn stood alone before a tall glass window. The world outside was bright and blue, filled with the glowing towers of her people, but her heart was heavy with sorrow. She ruled the Vereen Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, yet even with all her power she could not fill the empty space in her heart. Her only daughter, Princess Leora, had been lost many years ago. Every evening, when the twin moons rose over the crystal skies, the queen lit a silver beacon in the tallest tower of the palace. It shone far across the stars, a symbol of hope, a call for her missing child. Many told her to stop, saying that the princess was surely gone, that her ship had been destroyed during a border attack long ago, but Queen Cerilyn refused to believe it. "She is alive," the queen would whisper every night. "Somewhere out there, my child still breathes." The courtiers and advisors around her often stayed silent. They admired her strength but pitied her heart. Years passed and the beacon kept burning. Far away from Cytheria, across endless light years, a small blue planet orbited a yellow sun, Earth. On this quiet world, in a remote mountain region, lived a small human family who had once found something very strange among the stars. Captain David and his wife, Mara, had been part of a deep space exploration crew 15 years earlier. One day their scanners picked up a faint distress signal near a debris field. It was weak, almost lost in the cosmic noise. Most of the crew thought it was junk from an old satellite, but Mara insisted they check. When they reached the signal source, they found a broken escape pod drifting in darkness. Inside was a small alien child, no more than 4 years old. She was weak, frightened, and barely alive. Her skin had a soft silver glow, and her eyes shimmered like crystals. She did not speak their language, only whispered a single word in fear: Leora. The crew took her in, brought her back to Earth, and nursed her to health. No government ever learned about it. The crew kept her secret, afraid that the world would not understand. Captain David and Mara, having no children of their own, decided to raise her as their daughter. They named her Lyra, a simpler name close to the one she spoke. Years passed and Lyra grew among humans. She learned their language, their laughter, their ways of living. She went to school, helped in the workshop, and explored the forest near their mountain home. Her silver eyes and unusual glow faded as she grew older, allowing her to blend in, though she still looked a bit different, her skin faintly luminous in moonlight, her hair shimmering between brown and silver. But deep inside her, Lyra always felt that something was missing. She had dreams she could not explain, visions of a grand palace, silver towers, and a woman with bright blue eyes calling her name. When she woke, tears would fall, though she didn't know why. Her 2 younger siblings, Eli and Nora, were twins, human children born to David and Mara a few years after Lyra was found. They loved her dearly and never treated her as different. "You're our sister," Eli always said. "You just came from the stars, that's all." One evening when Lyra was sitting outside watching the night sky, something strange happened. Her wrist device, an old piece of alien metal she had worn since she was a child, suddenly began to glow. She had never understood what it was. Now it pulsed with soft silver light. A sound came from it, faint but clear, a rhythmic tone, almost like a beacon. The light blinked in a steady pattern, long, short, long, short. It repeated again and again. Lyra felt her heart pound. Somehow she knew this signal. It stirred something deep within her, like an echo from another life. Mara came outside and saw the glow. "Sweetheart, what's happening?" "I don't know," Lyra whispered. "It feels like someone is calling me." David examined the signal later that night. The pattern didn't match any human technology. It seemed ancient, broadcasting on a frequency no one used anymore. Lyra could feel the rhythm in her bones. "It's not a machine," she said softly. "It's a call." Over the next few days, the signal grew stronger. Lyra began to see brief flashes in her mind, glimpses of towers made of silver stone, alien symbols, and the face of the woman from her dreams. She started to remember her true name. "I think I know who I am," she said one night, standing by the window with Eli and Nora beside her. "I'm not from Earth. I was lost, and someone out there is waiting for me." Her siblings didn't laugh or doubt her. They held her hands, their eyes full of trust. "If you need to go," Nora said, "we'll come with you." David and Mara hesitated at first. The galaxy was dangerous, and humans rarely left their homeworld anymore. But they saw the determination in Lyra's eyes. She was not running away, she was going home. They helped her prepare an old freighter once used for trade runs. The ship, called the Solace, was small but sturdy, built for long journeys. David reactivated its engines while Lyra studied the star charts. The signal from her wrist device now displayed faint coordinates, a point far beyond known human space. "That's too far," David warned. "The jump routes are old and unstable. I have to go," Lyra said quietly. "It's calling me home." The day of departure came. Lyra stood by the ship's ramp, her silver hair shining under the rising sun. David hugged her tightly. "Wherever you came from, remember this, you have a family here. You will always be our daughter." Tears filled her eyes. "I know, and I'll come back someday." Eli and Nora insisted on going with her. "You're not going alone," Eli said with a grin. "Who's going to watch your back out there?" Mara tried to argue, but Lyra placed her hands gently on her shoulders. "I'll protect them. I promise." When the engines roared to life, dust and wind swept across the clearing. The ship rose slowly, leaving behind their quiet home. From above, Earth looked small and peaceful, a blue world shining among countless stars. As the Solace broke into faster-than-light travel, Lyra sat by the observation window. The stars stretched into long silver lines, and her wrist beacon pulsed softly in rhythm with her heartbeat. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I'm coming home." Far away on Zetheria, Queen Saralyn stood once again before her window. Her old beacon, the one she had lit every night for 15 long years, suddenly flickered. The energy readings changed, responding to something far across the galaxy. Her attendants gasped in surprise. "Your Majesty," said the royal seer, "the lost beacon has answered." The Queen's hands trembled. "What do you mean?" "It means, my Queen, something or someone has heard your call." For the first time in many years, hope returned to her heart. She looked up at the glowing sky and whispered softly, "Leora." And far beyond, on a human ship speeding through the stars, the lost princess opened her eyes and felt the echo of her mother's voice. Stars stretched like silver threads as the Solace moved through deep space. The small freighter was old, its engines humming softly, but it held something greater than any cargo. A girl searching for her home among the stars. Lyra sat quietly in the cockpit beside her younger siblings, Eli and Nora. The soft blue light of the console reflected in her silver eyes. Her hand rested on the strange bracelet around her wrist, the beacon that had awakened after years of silence. Every few minutes it pulsed with gentle light, guiding them toward an unknown destination. It didn't show a map, only coordinates in a strange language she somehow understood deep inside her mind. Eli leaned back in his chair, chewing on a nutrition bar. "You sure this thing isn't leading us into a black hole?" Lyra smiled softly. "I don't think so. It feels familiar, like it knows where we belong." Nora looked out through the window. The stars shimmered like dust scattered over dark velvet. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Do you think your real home looks like this?" Lyra paused. "I don't remember much. Only flashes. Towers made of crystal, people with eyes like stars, a voice calling my name." She touched her chest. "But I also remember Earth, the smell of the forest, Mom's cooking, Dad's laugh. I think both are home to me." The journey was long. For days they passed through empty regions where no ship traveled anymore. They stopped once near a gas giant to collect fuel particles, another time on a trade station called Keller's Reach, where humans and aliens worked together quietly. There, Lyra wore a hood to hide her glowing eyes. On that station, an old alien mechanic noticed her wrist beacon. His skin was green and rough, and his voice was deep like rolling thunder. "Child," he said, staring at the light on her wrist, "where did you get that?" Lyra hesitated. "I've had it since I was little." "Why?" The mechanic's eyes widened. "That is a royal Zetherian beacon. No one has seen one in decades. It belongs to the royal bloodline, to the Queen's family." The air around them grew quiet. Eli and Nora exchanged glances. "You mean," Eli started, "she's a princess?" The old mechanic nodded slowly. "If that beacon still lives, the one who wears it carries the blood of the Silver Crown. Be careful, child. The Varine Empire does not welcome strangers easily, especially humans." Lyra thanked him and quickly led her siblings back to their ship. When they were alone, she looked down at the glowing metal on her wrist, her heart racing. "Royal blood," she whispered. Could that really be true? Nora placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No matter who you were before, you're still our sister now." Lyra smiled faintly. "Yes, and I will never forget that." Back aboard the Solace, she entered the coordinates the beacon displayed. The navigation system flickered, then showed a distant point near the center of the Varine Empire. It was a long journey, far beyond human borders, are you sure? Eli asked, checking the readings. "That's alien space. If we go there, we'll be trespassing." "I have to go," Lyra said quietly. "Someone there is calling for me." So they jumped again, through nebula clouds, across dust storms of light, through quiet regions where even stars seemed to sleep. The children grew closer during the journey. They talked about the people they'd meet, what alien cities might look like, and how they might be treated. Sometimes, when Lyra slept, she dreamed of a woman's face, kind but sad, whispering her name. Each dream left her waking with tears. It felt less like a memory and more like a promise. But not all in the galaxy was peaceful. The Varine Empire had strict patrol lines. When the Solace entered their outer zone, several alien ships detected the human vessel immediately. "Unidentified craft," a sharp voice spoke through the comm. "You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself at once." Eli looked nervous. "Uh-oh, what do we do now?" Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm. "This is Lyra of Earth. We come in peace. We seek the world of Zytheria." There was silence for a few moments, then laughter came from the other end. "A human ship seeking the royal world? Turn back before you are destroyed." "We mean no harm," Lyra insisted. "Please, I belong there." Her beacon began to glow brightly, brighter than ever before. The alien ships paused their movement. A deep hum filled the channel, and the lead pilot spoke again, this time more cautious. "That light? It cannot be." Lyra lifted her wrist toward the screen. "Do you recognize this?" There was silence. Then the alien voice grew respectful. "Wait there. We are sending coordinates for safe passage. Do not deviate." The line went dead. Eli let out a breath of relief. "Well, that worked better than I expected." "They recognize the beacon," Nora said softly. "Maybe they believe you." Hours later, guided by the alien patrol, the Solace entered Zytherian space. Lyra stood by the front window, her eyes wide with wonder. Outside stretched a world unlike anything she had ever seen. Vast oceans of liquid light, floating towers that shone like glass, and ships that moved silently through the glowing sky. Her heart pounded. "It's real," she whispered. "It's really home." As they descended toward the surface, the communication screen flickered again. A calm, formal voice spoke. "You are approaching the capital of Zytheria. Identify your passengers." Lyra took a deep breath. "I am Lyra, daughter of Saralyn of the Silver Crown." The operator went silent for a long moment. Then the voice returned, shaky with disbelief. "That is impossible. The royal heir was lost 15 cycles ago." "Then tell your queen," Lyra said softly, "that her daughter has come home." The landing bay was surrounded by guards when they arrived. Tall, elegant aliens in silver armor watched as the Solace settled onto the landing pad. The doors opened slowly and a hush fell over the crowd. Lyra stepped out first, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the light of her birth world. Her siblings walked beside her, holding her hands tightly. The soldiers stared in shock at the two small human children, unsure what to make of them. Whispers spread through the crowd. "Humans. Why are they here? Could it be the lost princess?" Lyra walked calmly, though her heart was racing. At the end of the long platform stood a group of royal envoys, and behind them a tall, regal figure in a flowing silver gown. The queen herself. Queen Saralyn looked older than in Lyra's dreams, but her eyes were the same, bright and full of strength. She froze when she saw the young woman approaching. The world seemed to stop moving. The guards stepped aside, bowing their heads. Lyra stopped a few steps away and whispered, "Mother?" The queen's breath caught. She reached out a trembling hand, then slowly approached. When she touched Lyra's face, her fingers shook. "Those eyes," she whispered. "That mark, it's you." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pulled her daughter into her arms. "My child. My Leora." The entire crowd gasped. The queen, the ruler of the Varine, was crying in front of her court. For a long moment, mother and daughter stood together, the years of separation melting away. Eli and Nora watched quietly from behind, unsure what to do. Lyra turned and beckoned them forward. "These are my family," she said softly. "They saved me. They raised me. Without them, I would not be alive." The queen looked at the two small humans, at their wide, uncertain eyes, and then at her daughter's expression of love. Slowly she nodded. "Then they are welcome, as children of Cytheria." The courtiers murmured in disbelief, but none dared speak against the queen's words. For the first time in years, hope filled the great halls of Cytheria. The lost princess had returned, not alone, but holding the hands of two full human children. The queen felt both joy and worry in her heart. The world had changed since her daughter's disappearance, and not everyone would welcome this reunion. But for now, in that shining moment, mother and daughter were whole again, and above the palace, the silver beacon that had burned for years finally went dark, its purpose fulfilled. The palace of Cytheria had never been so silent. From the grand halls to the crystal towers, the entire city paused as word spread. The lost princess had returned. Queen Cerilyn stood at the palace gates, her daughter's hand still in hers. Lyra's heart raced as she looked at the world she had never known, shining walls made of living silver, glowing gardens that sang softly when the wind passed through, and the people, tall and elegant, all staring at her in disbelief. Behind her stood Eli and Nora, clutching each other's hands, their eyes wide with wonder and fear. The alien guards looked at them with cautious curiosity. To them, humans were creatures of rumor, strong, unpredictable, and strange. And yet, here were two human children standing beside the queen's daughter. When Queen Cerilyn led them into the palace, whispers followed. Courtiers bowed deeply to the queen but stole quick glances at Lyra and her companions. Their murmurs floated through the corridors like tiny echoes. Could it really be her? The queen's daughter lost to the stars. But she walks with humans. Can such a thing be true? She should not have brought them here. Lyra heard every word. She tried to stay calm, but inside her chest tightened. She wanted to understand these people, her people, but already she could feel their judgment. They looked at her like a mystery they didn't want to solve. The queen noticed. She turned to her daughter and gave a gentle smile. "Ignore them, my child. They do not understand yet. They will in time." They entered the great throne chamber where the High Council waited. 12 members of the royal court, advisors, generals, and scientists, stood in a half-circle before the throne. Their faces were serious and cold. The oldest among them, a tall figure named Lord Varen, stepped forward. His eyes were sharp, his tone polite but distant. "Your Majesty, we rejoice at your joy. But we must be sure of what we see. If this young woman truly is your daughter, let the royal bond prove it." The queen raised her hand. "You doubt me, Varen?" "I doubt no one, my queen," he said slowly. "But for the safety of our realm, we must confirm. There are forces in this galaxy who would deceive us." Lyra said nothing. She could sense the tension. The queen nodded. "Then let the bond be tested." A soft hum filled the air as attendants brought forth a crystal orb, glowing with inner light. "This," said Varen, "is the heart of lineage. It responds only to those of royal blood." Lyra stepped forward. The orb floated in the air before her, spinning slowly. The council watched closely. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, softly at first, the orb began to glow brighter, silver and blue swirling like a storm. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Gasps filled the room. Even Varen's eyes widened. The queen smiled through tears. "There is no more doubt. My daughter has returned." Lyra looked up, a little breathless. "It feels alive," she said softly. "It recognizes your spirit," the queen whispered. "You are my child and my Leora." But not everyone smiled. Among the council, some still frowned. They whispered quietly to one another. "Raised by humans, she carries their blood. What if her mind has been changed by them?" The queen's voice cut through their murmurs. "Enough, she is Vereen and she is mine. Without her, there is no future for our house." Then she looked at Eli and Nora, who stood nervously behind Lyra. "And these children, they are under my protection as well. They saved my daughter's life when none of us could. You will treat them as guests of the crown." The council bowed, though some did so unwillingly. That night, the queen hosted a feast to celebrate Lyra's return. The royal hall glowed with blue firelights, and alien musicians played soft melodies that echoed through the palace. Lyra sat beside her mother at the long table, wearing a gown of silver silk that shimmered when she moved. Eli and Nora sat nearby, surrounded by curious alien children who asked endless questions about Earth. Nora smiled shyly and told them about chocolate and rain. Eli showed them how to make paper airplanes, and when one flew across the hall, even the guards chuckled quietly. For a short while, laughter filled the palace again, but in the shadows of the grand hall, Lord Varen and 2 other council members whispered together. "This cannot be allowed to continue," one hissed. "If she truly becomes heir again, the queen may bring humans into our court. Our traditions will crumble." Varen nodded. "We will watch her, and if she shows weakness, we will remind the queen where her loyalty must lie." Later that night, Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The stars above seemed closer than ever. Her mother came to stand beside her. "It feels strange," Lyra said quietly, "to be home yet feel like a stranger." The queen placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Home is not built in a day, my child. You will find your place here." Lyra hesitated. "Mother, did you light a beacon for me all these years?" The queen smiled softly. "Every night. It was the only way I could still believe." "I saw it," Lyra whispered. "It called me across the stars." Tears filled the queen's eyes. Then it was worth all the years of waiting. For a long moment they stood together in silence. The queen looked at her daughter with pride and sorrow, seeing the strength and kindness in her. But she also saw something new, something human. "You have changed," the queen said softly. Lyra nodded. "Humans taught me to survive, and to care. They taught me that love is not bound by blood." The queen smiled faintly. "Then perhaps it is time our people learned that too." In the following days, Lyra explored the palace with Eli and Nora. They marveled at the glowing gardens where flowers floated in midair, and the learning halls where alien children shaped light with their hands. Everywhere they went, eyes followed them. Some smiled politely. Others turned away. Eli whispered once, "They don't like us much, do they?" Lyra shook her head. "They're afraid. But they'll see soon that you're not their enemy." When they visited the Hall of Ancients, they found murals telling the history of the Varine. One image caught Lyra's eye, a great war between her people and another race. Human soldiers stood among the painted enemies, their faces fierce and determined. Nora pointed to it quietly. "They fought against humans?" Lyra's heart sank. "Maybe once, before I was born." At that moment she understood the cold stares, the whispering, the fear. To many of the Varine, humans were not saviors. They were reminders of old battles and bitter loss. That night she spoke with the queen again. "Mother," she said softly, "the people fear humans. They look at my siblings as if they are danger." The queen sighed. "The past has deep scars, Lyra. The last human war left wounds that time has not healed. Some will see your friends as a threat no matter what you do." "Then I will change that," Lyra said firmly. "I will show them that humans can be kind and brave, like Eli and Nora." The queen looked at her daughter, pride shining in her eyes. "You truly have your father's heart," she whispered, "and my strength." But far below the palace, in the shadowed tunnels of the royal city, others met in secret. The sound of machinery hummed softly as Varan's followers gathered around a glowing table. "She must not be allowed to take the throne," one said. "If she unites with the humans, we lose everything." Varan's cold eyes flashed. "Then we shall act before that happens. Let the queen rejoice now. Soon both she and her daughter will face the truth. The galaxy does not forgive weakness." The next morning, Lyra woke to a new sunrise over Zetheria. The light spilled across the towers, turning them into rivers of gold. She smiled as Eli and Nora laughed in the garden, chasing small glowing creatures that fluttered like butterflies. For the first time, she felt peace. She didn't know that in the shadows danger was already rising, and soon, her courage, Yuto, and her bond with her human family would be tested in ways she could never imagine. The twin suns of Valara Prime set low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft gold. The palace stood tall, surrounded by shimmering spires and gardens of glowing flowers. For the first time in many years, the queen's court was silent. All waited for the queen to speak. Before her stood her lost daughter, Princess Liara, the one taken by the void storms long ago, now standing alive, older, and not alone. Beside Liara were two small children. Both had dark human eyes, soft hair, and curious faces. They clung to her hands tightly. Uncertain of the alien world around them, the crowd whispered, unable to understand how the Queen's heir could return with humans. Queen Merath looked at her daughter for a long time. Her expression was unreadable, calm yet stormy beneath the surface. Finally, she rose from her throne. "You have returned," she said softly, her voice echoing in the chamber. "And you bring them." Liara bowed her head. "Mother," she said, "I bring you my family." The words stirred the crowd like thunder. Counselors gasped, guards stiffened. Family? Did she mean those humans were her children? Impossible, they thought. Family, the Queen repeated. Her voice trembled slightly, not with anger but disbelief. "You have lived among humans all this time?" Liara nodded slowly. "They saved me when the storm took my ship. A human named Ethan found me on a frontier world. He helped me heal. He gave me a home." She looked down at the two children and smiled faintly, and when the years passed, they became my light. A murmur rippled across the room. The Queen closed her eyes for a moment, as if the weight of those words pressed upon her heart. "Do you know what your return means?" she whispered. "Do you know what the Council will say when they learn that the royal bloodline has mixed with humans?" Liara met her gaze without fear. "Yes, but I also know what it means to hide truth. I will not be ashamed of who they are or what I've become." The Queen stepped forward. The guards shifted nervously, unsure whether to stop her. But Merath waved them off. She moved down the steps slowly, her long robe trailing like mist. She stopped in front of her daughter and looked down at the children. One of them, the boy, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Are you Grandma?" he asked in his small, innocent voice. The court gasped again, but the Queen did not scold him. Instead, her lips twitched slightly, as if she could not decide whether to frown or smile. "Grandma?" she echoed softly. "No one has called me that before." Liara almost laughed through her tears. "They don't know your titles, Mother. They just see people." The Queen studied the two small faces again. They looked fragile, but there was something else in their eyes. Courage, warmth, and a spark that reminded her of the humans she once considered wild. She turned back to her daughter. "You have returned to claim your place," she said quietly. "But if the Council decides against you, they may take the children away." Liara's expression hardened. "Then they will face me. I didn't survive the storms and the void just to lose them." For a long moment, mother and daughter stood in silence. The Queen's heart battled between duty and love. She had dreamed of her daughter's return every night, but not like this. Yet as she looked at Liara now, she saw the same strength she once had when she was young. Finally, the Queen spoke again. "Come," she said softly. "You will stay in the upper chambers tonight. Tomorrow we will face the Council together." That night the palace was quiet. The children slept beside Liara in a large bed of silken sheets, holding each other close. Liara watched them and remembered the small house on the human world. The laughter, the sunsets, the simple warmth. She feared that her return might have brought danger to them, but she also knew this moment was necessary. Outside, Queen Merath stood on her balcony, staring at the twin moons. Her mind was torn between her love for her daughter and her duty as ruler. The Council of Elders would demand answers. They had already sent a message requesting an urgent meeting. Her advisor, Old Minister Reth, approached quietly. "My queen," he said, bowing, "forgive my words, but the situation is grave. The Council will not accept half-humans in the royal line. You must prepare for—" "I will prepare," she interrupted calmly, "but not for what they expect." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "Do you remember what our ancestors taught? That unity brings strength, perhaps. This is what the stars meant." Reth hesitated. "You believe the return of the princess is destiny?" "I believe," said the Queen softly, "that we have judged humans wrongly. My daughter lived among them and found love, not war. Maybe it is time we see them not as chaos, but as balance." Reth bowed again, uncertain but respectful. At dawn, the great hall was filled once more. The Council of Elders gathered in their silver robes, their faces hard as stone. They stood in a half-circle before the throne where the Queen and her daughter sat. The eldest among them, Councillor Varn, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, his tone cold but polite, "we rejoice at the return of your daughter, but this matter cannot be ignored." He looked at the two small children. "You know what must be done." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do I?" she asked. Alien bloodlines must remain pure, Varn continued. It is law. These human offspring cannot be accepted as heirs. Liara stood. They are not offspring to be judged. They are children, my children. Varn ignored her tone. The law is clear. If they remain, it could divide our people. If they leave, peace continues. The hall grew cold and still. Everyone waited for the queen's response, but instead of anger, she rose slowly and lifted her crown from her head. The hall gasped. If law demands I cast away my family, she said firmly, then the law is broken, not my heart. Even the council hesitated. The queen turned toward her daughter and spoke loudly so all could hear. If these children carry human blood, then they also carry my blood. They are heirs of Velara, and I will defend them as I defend my people. The council erupted in protest, their voices clashing like storms. But the queen's voice rose above them. We are no longer a people who fear the stars. The universe changes, and so must we. My daughter's return is not shame, it is hope. The guards looked uncertain. The crowd outside began to murmur with awe. The queen's courage was like a spark that could ignite something far greater. As the noise grew, Liara looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. For the first time since her return, she felt like she belonged again. And in that moment, the two children stepped forward, holding hands tightly, looking at the council with quiet bravery. They did not understand the politics or danger, but they understood family, and so did their grandmother, the queen. The palace of Zetheria was unusually quiet that morning. Sunlight reflected off the silver towers, casting long beams across the floating gardens. Yet beneath the beauty, tension lingered. The council of elders had not left, and whispers of rebellion had grown louder overnight. Some questioned whether the queen's decision to welcome humans into the royal line would end in disaster. But inside the throne chamber, a different energy stirred. Queen Merath and her daughter Liara stood side by side, looking out over the courtyard. Below, citizens began to gather, curious and cautious, eager to witness the moment the lost princess officially reclaimed her place. Liara turned to the children, Eli and Nora. They stood nervously by her side, their small hands gripping hers tightly. Remember, she said softly, we have nothing to fear if we stand together. Today is not only about me, it is about showing that courage and kindness can unite worlds. The children nodded. Eli squared his shoulders and Nora held her chin high. They might have been small, but their bravery would not go unnoticed. The grand hall filled quickly as the queen called the council to meet for the final decision. The elders entered, their silver robes swaying, faces drawn and serious. Some glared at the human children. Others tried to hide their curiosity at Liara's presence. Queen Merath stepped forward, her regal voice echoing through the hall. Today we face a choice, she said. The galaxy is changing and so must we. My daughter has returned. Not only alive, but carrying the love and strength of a family that spans two worlds. I will not turn my back on that. A murmur ran through the council. Some sat rigidly, refusing to show emotion, but the queen's gaze was steady, unshakable. Liara stepped forward, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight streaming through the windows. I am the princess of Zetheria, she said clearly, and I am also the child who grew among humans. My life is proof that kindness, bravery, and family do not belong to one species. They belong to everyone. A counselor, tall and severe, spoke up. Your words are noble, princess, but they do not change tradition. Our laws demand that heirs be of pure Varine blood. Liara did not flinch. She placed her hands over the children's heads. They are my family, and if love is a bond stronger than law, then they are heirs with me. They taught me courage, and I will show you that their presence brings strength, not weakness. The hall fell silent. Even the elders struggled to respond. For years they had clung to tradition, believing that only purity could secure the empire. Now the lost princess, holding the hands of two humans, challenged that belief with nothing more than truth and courage. Queen Merath raised her voice above the silence. The blood of Varine flows in my daughter's veins. The blood of humans flows in her children. If the law opposes what is right, then it is the law that must change. Today we embrace the future of Zetheria, and it begins with this family. A long pause followed. Some counselors bowed their heads, unwilling to defy the queen openly. Others whispered heatedly to one another, plotting but not daring to act. The people in the courtyard below cheered softly, a murmur of support that grew louder with every heartbeat. Liara turned to the queen. Mother, she said. "Thank you for believing. Thank you for standing with me, even when others doubted." The queen placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "I have always believed, Leora. I lit a beacon for you when the world thought you lost. And now seeing you return, I know the galaxy itself has guided you back to us." Outside the palace, citizens began gathering in the streets. Word had spread quickly. The lost princess had returned with humans in tow. Many whispered in astonishment, unsure what to make of the children. But most were eager to see what courage and hope might look like. In the days that followed, Liara and the children began to walk openly through the palace gardens. Citizens came forward cautiously at first, then with curiosity, asking questions and marveling at the strange family. Liara spoke to them gently, showing respect for Vereen traditions while explaining her human family's role in her life. Eli and Nora proved themselves quietly. In one instance, a small fire broke out in a training hall, where young Vereen warriors practiced energy combat. Without hesitation, Eli and Nora helped direct the water flow and guided the younger children to safety. Their bravery earned nods from even the most skeptical counselors. Liara watched them with pride. "See, Mother?" she whispered. "They do not take away from our people. They strengthen them." Queen Merath smiled. "Yes, my daughter. They are the first of a new generation. A generation that will learn that love and loyalty are not limited by species or bloodlines." Not all opposition had disappeared. Lord Varn, the elder who had first challenged Liara, continued to plot. Yet seeing the courage of the children and the calm determination of the princess, even he began to hesitate. The queen's word was law, but the truth in Liara's actions was undeniable. Strength, compassion, and unity were qualities that could not be ignored. Months passed. The empire began to change slowly. Humans and Vereen alike started sharing knowledge, technology, and culture. Trade between worlds increased. Where once fear had kept races apart, trust began to grow. Liara spent her days learning more about her heritage, training with Vereen warriors, and exploring the history of her people. At night, she told stories to Eli and Nora about the stars, the adventures she had on human worlds, and the lessons she had learned from both families. The queen often sat nearby, listening and sometimes laughing. She had waited for years for her daughter's return, and now she saw the future she had longed for, a future of peace and understanding. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Liara stood with her mother and the children in the palace gardens. The glowing flowers swayed in the soft wind, reflecting the light of the moons. "I never imagined I could feel so complete," Liara said softly. "The past feels like a dream, and yet I feel ready for the future." Queen Merath reached out and took her hand. "You are not only ready, my daughter. You are the beginning of something greater. You have united worlds not by power but by heart." Eli and Nora squeezed her hands tightly. "We're proud of you," Eli said. "Yes," Nora added. "And we'll always be with you." From the palace towers, the silver beacon that had called Lyra home now shone brighter than ever. Not as a lonely signal for a lost child, but as a symbol of hope, unity, and courage. Across the galaxy, those who once doubted would see that one family, a princess and two humans, could change the course of history. In the Grand Hall, the Council of Elders gathered once more. This time there was no argument, no whispering. They watched as the queen and her daughter worked to guide the empire forward. The humans, small and unassuming, had proven that they were not a threat. Their bravery, loyalty, and love had won the hearts of many. Lord Varn, who had opposed them most fiercely, finally bowed before the queen. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "you have shown us the path. Your daughter and her family have brought strength we could not have imagined." The queen nodded, eyes glistening with pride. "Then let us move forward together. For Zytheria, for Earth, and for every world that believes in the power of family." Liara looked at Eli and Nora. "Do you see?" she asked. "Together we are stronger than fear. Together we are family." And in that moment, under the twin moons and the gleaming towers of Zytheria, a new dawn rose. A dawn where differences were celebrated, courage was honored, and love stretched across worlds, holding hands across the stars. The lost princess had returned. She had found her family, and she had shown the galaxy that unity, hope, and courage could shape a future brighter than any empire could imagine. From that day forward, the people of Zytheria told stories of the princess who returned with humans by her side. and the children who, though small and from another world, proved that even the tiniest hearts could change the course of history. The beacon shone high in the palace tower, no longer a signal of longing. It was now a symbol of courage, family, and the bright light of a new era. And the galaxy watched as the queen, her daughter, and two full human children stood together, hand in hand, ready to guide Cytheria toward a future no one had ever thought possible.